Hey, welcome to the Joe Hoft Show. This is Joe Hoft. They're going after people like you and me for sharing the truth. They're all phonies, they're liars, they're fakes. How much evidence did they gain on Dominion? How much did they gain that they're not telling us about? There you have it. That's nice intro there, guys, for the Joe Hoft Show. I'm Joe Hoft, and I'm happy to be here. We got another great show. We're going to lay some incredible evidence that you haven't seen before related to the 2024 election. If you've been following me lately, especially at joehoft.com, you'll see that been absolutely tearing apart the results in California. They're just absolutely totally bogus. My position now is that that is not a free state. That state is ran by communists, and they're communist elections. And this is what we have today in this country. If we don't have elections, then we've got communism or fascism. Choose your pick. Either way, these nasty people, they cover up their lies, they cover up their fraud, they cover up and they steal elections from good people. We've got how many good people across this country that have lost their elections, including President Trump, due to fraud and wrongdoing by the left. It's unbelievable. So we're going to have some great information on that in the second segment of the show today. Looking forward to it. So that's going on, and then all sorts of stuff's going on. And I'm going to just jump into some of these clips because there's a couple stories here I really want to talk about, but maybe to kind of start off on a light note, hopefully light. Anyways, this is Shaquille O'Neal, apparently in an interview yesterday. Something I've never seen before. You take a look and tell me if you've ever seen anything like this before.
The other thing about Kawhi is, you all right, big fella? You all right? No. Catching a cramp?
Go ahead, keep talking, Chuck.
Yeah, we're on TV.
I know what we're doing. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's that olive oil you've been drinking.
I know.
Hey, take some matches with you. Hey, listen, he couldn't hold it.
He can't hold it.
After 40, he can't hold it no more.
That's at first.
He can't hold it.
Unless he's got something. That wasn't something planned, was it?
No,
that was not planned.
Hey,
No, that wasn't something planned. I think Shaquille O'Neal, quite frankly, I just think he was an incredible basketball player. They had to change the game because he was such a powerhouse underneath the hoop, just a big, huge guy. I remember seeing him his freshman year at LSU. He was taller than anybody, running up and down that court, slam dunking it. It was amazing to see how we were like, holy, me and my brothers were watching that. We played ball. We're like, wow, look at this guy. And he was just the same in the pros. Nobody could stop him. And apparently somebody stopped him there, though. And so he had to take care of things real quickly. So that was something I've never seen on air before. And by the way, Shaq, he's a funny guy. He's done a lot of funny things. And I'm a fan of his. Maybe wrong. Maybe somebody else point out, oh, you don't know this. Well, I don't. For what I know of the guy, he's funny. He's a good guy. And that was an unfortunate event for him yesterday. That's for sure. My God. So anyways, we'll get off the light side and we'll start jumping right into it. We've got a lot of attacks against Trump's team. The media is just as corrupt as ever, the mainstream media. That's why they hate us. They hate us with a passion because we're going to tell the truth, and they hate the truth. They just hate the truth. So Pete Hegseth was recently attacked. Here he was again in an interview, being attacked on make-believe garbage. He's just trying to fix the military. The military's been badly broken. We've got, here's my position, especially after watching President Trump getting damn near assassinated in Butler. What in the hell are those women doing there near the president? I don't think somebody should be guarding the president unless they can pick him up and carry him 100 yards personally. And those women there, they couldn't have carried that one couldn't even get her gun out of her holster or put it back. She was so pathetic. The other one's about half President Trump's size. She wasn't going to protect him from anything. That's what we need I think in the military as well. If you can't do the job, you're not there. And we set standards for jobs, and that's the people that are going to fill those jobs, the people that can do them. We're not going to have women up front carrying heavy loads because they can't. And so I really agree with what Hegseth's doing right now in the military, making it, ready for, war if we have to go to war. And it's a dangerous world right now. I just actually heard right before this show that that China is sending airplanes to Egypt. So fighter jets. So I don't know what's going on, but this is not a safe world. We've got to be very, very careful. And President Trump he's put the heat on in the economic war and the information war. And China is in terrible shape right now. Nobody talks about it. China's economy is in bad shape, and it's due to President Trump standing up for America. We're going to cover some of that in the show here, some other segments, or videos. But let's start off here with Pete Hegseth and what he had to say about his job and what he's doing to make our military more military ready.
They've come after me from day one, just like they've come after President Trump. I mean, I've gotten a fraction of what President Trump got in that first term. What he's endured is superhuman. It's not hard for me to do this job. I know exactly why I'm here. To bring warfighting and the warfighting ethos back to the Pentagon, to rip out the insidious ideologies and not compromise and not back down, to bring in new press voices into the Pentagon, which we've done, to reestablish standards and accountability, to not tolerate leakers, to 100% operational control of our border, to get rid of trans lunacy in the military. We haven't backed down. See, here's the thing. A lot of people come to Washington and they just play the game. And it's you punch their ticket and get along to go along and, start doing meet the press and going to the Council on Foreign Relations and spending time with all the new cocktail sipping crowd. That's not why I'm here. I'm here because President Trump asked me to bring warfighting back to the Pentagon every single day. Right. That is our focus. And if people don't like it, they can come after me. No worries. I'm standing right here. The warfighters are behind us. Our enemies know they're on notice. Our allies know we're behind them. And that, in this dangerous world, for the American people, is what it's all about.
I've been on 2 bases.
Fantastic. Those Pete Hegseth with Brian Kilmeade, both with Fox at one time. Wonder how Brian feels about his former colleague now running the military. It's pretty impressive. And I think he's doing a fine job. They're trying to get him, though. There's a big effort from the deep state to knock him out. And thankfully, he's standing strong, and he knows these monsters. And we're going to keep backing that guy. He's another great guy in America right now. He's doing a great job. So let him be, and let him go. Big story over the past few weeks is President Trump can't be exporting terrorists out of our country. The ones that snuck in, we're going to have to now, according to the corrupt Supreme Court, we're going to have to individually go through law cases individually with these people to define whether they should be sent out of this country back to their home country or not. It's lunacy. It's illegal. It's not constitutional. And President Trump knows that. And everybody knows that. This lunatic MS-13 guy that the lunatics are trying to bring back to the U.S., he was caught up in human trafficking. He's beaten his wife a couple times. She had restraining orders on him. He's just an absolute monster, part of a gang. Human trafficking. The guy's a monster, and yet the Supreme Court says, no, you have to bring him back here. No, don't you ever do that, President Trump. Don't ever do that. These guys, that's not right. Continue to protect America. Here's an interview. One guy just went down to some inner city, I think it was in Baltimore, where the Senator Holland, who just went down there to talk and have a margarita with this guy in El Salvador. These people are his constituents. Listen to what they have to say about this. It's pretty impressive.
He was living in Maryland, designated MS-13 terrorist, and Donald Trump deported him. Mm-hmm. How does that make you feel?
I feel safer.
He gotta go. He gotta go.
Need to go. I mean, that's it.
But he was a father.
But he's still a terrorist.
Okay. I mean, but there's children living without fathers now.
He should have picked and choose, so he picked to be a terrorist instead of worrying about his children.
The Democrats, they want him back. They say he was wrongfully deported. He has a wife and a kid who's a citizen. They're calling this a national emergency. Is this a national emergency?
I wouldn't call it a national emergency. We got more things going on.
We have more things, more fish to fry.
I just found out about it, so I don't think so. What kind of national emergency? For what? What is the emergency for?
ain't no national emergency, no.
He was accused of hitting his wife twice and was a suspected human smuggler. Was he wrongfully deported?
No, he need to go.
If he's a smuggler, yeah, he need to be deported.
It's better to be safe than sorry.
Your senator here, Chris Van Hollen, he flew to El Salvador where this guy was deported. He met with them, had lunch with them, had margaritas on the table. What's up with your senator?
I have no idea, but I do believe that was a waste of taxpayer dollars.
Margaritas. Margaritas.
You agreeing with somebody whipping their wife, terrorizing where you live, then you don't need to live here either.
Senator Van Hollen, you need to come see me, Mr. Coley, because you doing like that. You need to take care of home before you go in other states.
He went to El Salvador.
Oh, that's another country, excuse me.
What has Senator Chris Van Hollen ever done for you?
Nothing.
Nothing.
For me, nothing.
Nothing that I know of.
He ain't do me. I can admit that.
I've never even heard of this person.
Do you want Kilmar Abrego Garcia, this quote-unquote Maryland dad, living back in Maryland?
No. No.
No.
No.
Not if he's doing trafficking, no. Why the I want somebody like that back? No.
What is your message to the Democrats who really want him back in your community?
Why would you want that in my community? Bring it to your community and see how long you like it up there.
Leave them, or y'all go over there with them.
You're focused on the wrong thing.
If they illegal,
It's fantastic. I think that's most of America, 90%, maybe 95%. Who thinks this is smart? It's not smart. And the media pushes this like, oh, yeah, a bunch of Americans care about this. No, they don't. You're lying again, media. You're lying. It's a scam. This is a joke. This is disgusting, a terrible joke. So good to see. Across the country, we're very, very much alike on a lot of things. Get the scoundrels out of here. They never should have been brought in. Joe Biden committed massive crimes by doing that. It was treasonous what he did, him and Mayorkas. They lied every day, and Merrick Garland, et cetera. So anyways, bad thing. Bad. I tell you what a good thing is. Just reported here recently, President Trump, now let's talk the economy. President Trump has brought in $7 trillion in investments in just 3 months. It's just been, I guess, 2 days ago, 3 months. It's only April 22nd today. So if you think about it, January to February, March, April, 1/4 of President Trump's for 16 quarters that he's going to have here. 1/4, he's already brought in $7 trillion in investments. And then in one piece, they're saying $500 billion, $500 billion just from Apple alone, bringing it to the U.S. Other big companies are coming to the U.S. He's going to make it easier and cheaper for them to build in the U.S. Of course, they'll have better and stronger and smarter employees. This country's going to explode economically because of President Trump. But I've never seen a number like that. $7 trillion that President Trump's bringing to this economy already. Commitments from companies abroad and in the U.S. saying we're gonna do this. We're gonna really build our manufacturing facilities in the U.S. and the U.S. will be safer because of it. We'll put our medical products here. We'll build those here instead of overseas. We will build the microchips instead of overseas. We will build steel here instead of bringing it in from overseas. We're gonna build everything here. We will be safe. We will be war ready, and we will be prosperous beyond belief because we consume like 40% of the world's consumption is the U.S. and we should. And the rest of the world's been taking advantage of us. So great things are happening by Trump. On the other hand, and we saw this in Trump's first term, and I'm going to talk about this now, show a couple clips for you. The Fed is this entity, and I remember back in 2016, there was a big website or site on Facebook. It was called In the Fed, and it was really popular. I didn't know a lot about it. I thought it was maybe corny. I thought maybe Rand Paul's or Ron Paul's dad, one of these guys is, what's he talking about in the Fed? The more I study it, the more I realize, man, that was a sham 100 years ago. It's unbelievable that this entity is even around. And this entity is right now determining the interest rates for the U.S. And We saw this in Trump's first term, and I wrote about this, and maybe I'll even show you a post from before. But before we do that, let me show you this. Here's a guy from the Fed admitting that Jerome Powell wanted to destroy the economy during Trump's term, his first term. Watch this. It's unbelievable.
Trump is a crazy person. It's very clear. I mean, he's a dumb guy.
Does he hate Trump? Is the feeling neutral?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. He wants to be remembered in history as somebody who held the line against like Trump and like somebody who like helped the economy.
Yeah.
And Trump was president. He wanted to stimulate the economy.
Right.
But he wouldn't do it. And he started raising interest rates, doing the opposite that Trump wanted. So I mean, so the feeling is this, that like we don't want Trump to be in government.
Right.
That's a guy from the Fed admitting that Jerome Powell sabotaged the economy under Trump. We've got evidence for that. We're going to show that. Here's an interview, though. I want to show this. This was yesterday, I believe, on Fox Business, and this guy is great. He talks about absolutely we can get rid of Jerome Powell. President Trump has the right to do it, and he talks a bit about Powell and his actions and how insane this guy is already. The rest of the world is lowering their interest rates. Inflation in the U.S. is maybe even negative right now, thanks to President Trump. Again, in only 3 months, and Jerome Powell won't lower the rates. Now, the problem with that really hit me is then the bonds that we sell are at a higher rate than they should be, because the real rate should be much lower, and it's going to cost the American people millions, billions, trillions of dollars by not lowering these rates. This is what Jerome Powell's doing to you and me. The guy's a scoundrel. He needs to go. Watch out what this guy has to say.
James, you wrote a piece last week. It was really a marvelous piece, and you said that Trump should have the power to fire Powell, and you think also that maybe it could come through this Wilcox decision. Maybe that would sort of set a legal path for Trump to do so. Why do you feel this way?
Well, good afternoon, Charles, and happy Easter. Look, the President of the United States absolutely under our Constitution has the right to remove any executive officer, and Jay Powell is no exception. I laid out the legal argument last week, but this week I have to tell you, after Jay Powell's speech in Chicago, where he was engendering all of this negativity and pessimism, he talked about 4 key areas of President Trump's agenda: immigration, deregulation, fiscal policy, and tariffs. And you know what he talked about entirely in his speech? Only tariffs. He had nothing to say about the deregulation agenda, which lowers inflation, lower fiscal spending, which lowers inflation, and reducing the immigration burden, which lowers inflation. He's selectively looking at individual parts of the economy to decide what to do. And at the end of the day, it's not that President Trump is pressuring Jay Powell to cut rates. It's that the real economy is pressuring Jay Powell to do the right thing. We're in the middle of trade negotiations. Inflation is down to 1.5%, according to the True Inflation Index. Doge is saving the taxpayer money. By all accounts, inflation is already lower and headed lower from here. That's why the European Central Bank, the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada are all preemptively cutting rates. And Jay Powell, Mr. Too Late, as President Trump rightly coined him, is once again doing the wrong thing. And the president has a First Amendment right to call that out. And we're going to find out very soon, I believe he does, has the Constitution.
A couple more minutes. That guy goes on. He's fantastic. He just blows it away. And I put that up at joehoft.com. You can go there and watch the rest of that. This guy's spot on. There's calls to fire Jerome Powell now. Here's one. Take a look at this. Oh, okay. No, let's pull up this article. This is back from 2018, actually, where I called for Jerome Powell to go. I don't know if you see that article there, Apollo. Take a look. Yeah, this is back at Gateway Pundit in 2018. In the 3-month period leading up to the 2018 election, think about this. Powell destroyed the Trump economy. He kept raising rates like a madman. It was insane. I remember seeing how Charles from Fox Business back at that time saying, this is crazy. He's increasing rates after costing Americans $4 trillion in value in the stock market. The market's going down, and he's increasing rates. Charles Haley was saying, what's going on here? What's going on? Of course, he's a monster. This guy's going to do the same thing. I had calls for him to be removed back then, and I think he should have been. And now we've got to face him again. Trump should get rid of him. I think he should end the Fed totally. Actually, just end the Fed. So let's share one more piece here, Apollo. This is an article about Governor Cuomo. He's finally been referred for prosecution related to his actions of COVID back in 2020. We put this up. Maybe you can share a bit of this. This was up at the Gateway Pundit. I put this up actually, and it was about Cuomo and his actions. What he did is he signed a bill that mandated that elderly people that got COVID had to be placed back into the elderly homes in his state. He mandated it, and then he expanded it to include other types of individuals, not just elderly, but maybe people that are handicapped in some of these homes like that. And as a result, COVID in New York just exploded. These people and COVID deaths mainly. All these elderly people who were by far, we knew then and we know now, they were the ones that were at risk. When we saw our first numbers from COVID, the thing that we noticed is it's the elderly that are dying. Children are basically immune to this thing. And I remember writing about that early on in March of 2020, and also pointing out that no, these numbers like 3.4% death and mortality rate with COVID were a lie. I reported that, and I ended up getting doxxed by Media Matters as a result. It was because I was spot on. These people hate the truth. The mainstream media hates the truth. So does George Soros. So do the Democrats. And back then, Cuomo did this. We're just like, my God, he's killing these people. And people were talking about how their parents, maybe I remember, wasn't it Janice Dean at Fox News was talking about how her parents were sent. Both died within a short period of time, as I recall. They were in a nursing home, and they shoved these sick people back into the nursing home, and everybody gets sick. All these people die. And there was financial rewards for the nursing homes and financial rewards for the hospitals to have these COVID deaths. It was such a sick scenario. Finally, yesterday, we find out that the House, after their investigation years long, this should have been done a long time ago, they're calling for an investigation into actually maybe even more than that. They're calling for I believe, an indictment of Governor Cuomo, and he wasn't the only one. Whitmer in Michigan, the guy in New Jersey, et cetera. They were all involved in this. So good to see that the House is taking care of this stuff. So lots going on, lots to talk about. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll be back. We've got two great individuals who are going to talk to us, show us some data as we explore the results from the 2024 elections. So we'll be right back after this.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF. What is DCF, you ask? We're the best damn sandwich shop in the universe. Do we sell hoagies? Well, we're DCF. And the F doesn't stand for hoagies. We got 9mm sandwiches. We got beastly baguettes. And we toast buns like no other. Looking for training on bun safety? We got you covered. and our ranges are the best place to test out your new Not sandwich. So get your buns out, because the sun's out, and let's party! We're not actually a sandwich shop.
Every day, millions of people fall victim to online threats. Over 30 million spam calls are made per day in America, with over 50% of daily emails being considered spam. Introducing Safe and Secure. With the advanced programs, you'll be able to stay in control and keep hackers out. Don't let the cyber criminals win. Safe and Secure. Shield against hackers and embrace peace of mind.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF. What is DCF, you ask? We're the best damn sandwich shop in the universe. Do we sell hoagies? Well, we're DCF, and the F doesn't stand for hoagies. We got 9mm sandwiches, we got beastly baguettes, and we toast buns like no other. Looking for training on bun safety? We got you covered, and our ranges are the best place to test out your new Not sandwich. So get your buns out, because the sun's out, and let's party! We're not actually a sandwich shop.
Hey, welcome back to the Joe Hoft Show. So glad you're here. So glad that I'm here and that I have the opportunity today to introduce you to two incredible individuals that are going to describe some of the results from the 2024 election. I'm really excited about this. I'm a fan of one of these individuals for sure. I should say both of you. And so without any further ado, let me introduce to you both Robyn Sachs and Draza Smith. Welcome to the Joe Hoft Show, ladies.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Hey, Robyn, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump over to Draza. Tell us,
Sure. Well, first of all, Joe, I want to say I'm a big fan of your show. Love your show. I know I text you a lot after the show. Anyway, I am a small business owner. I own a PR firm called RMR at rmr.com. We were one of the lucky ones back in, 1995 to get the 3-letter URL. So I do not have any background in elections or math. So you may say, well, how did you get into this? And I kind of got into it because after 2020, I just noticed what everyone noticed, that, they stopped counting in the middle of an election. So I said to my husband, I think they're stealing the election. And ever since then, I've been trying to get down to the bottom of what's going on in our elections. One other thing I'll mention is I am a Entrepreneur of the Year winner from Ernst & Young. And the reason I say that is I have been smeared and slandered and persecuted by the state as well as the fake news since I got into this. Whereas, in my day job, I was always lauded and celebrated. So it was a totally new experience for me. And I'm like, what is it about elections that these guys don't want the citizens looking into it? So I'll let Draza go.
Yeah, how about it? Good question. How about you, Draza? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a control system engineer by trade. I have advanced degrees in both electrical engineering and computer engineering. I hold patents in the area of power generations, emission control, and cybersecurity. And I worked as a grid security engineer at Sandia National Labs. So,
Wow,
Draz is
big
very
engineer.
smart.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, I have an uncle. He was a professor at University of Missouri, and he was an engineer. He was in power engineering. As a matter of fact, I believe he designed or started the entire study of power engineering. Maybe you've heard of him, Richard Hoft, years ago. Great guy, wonderful guy, just a wonderful guy. He's passed away now, but my dad's brother. So I came from a family of some mathematics, and that was pretty easy for us. I got a twin brother, Jim. You guys know Jim, and we never had a problem with mathematics. We just see it, and it just made sense. And I think that's just due to hereditary more than anything. So I know a bit about that. That's how I ended up in accounting and finance. So that was my background leading up to 2020, and then we saw this absolute disaster that we kept thinking, well, they're going to fix that. That's, obviously there's something going on there, and it never got fixed. And then they certified this sham, and we all just kind of walked around with our jaws on the ground for a long time thinking, I can't believe this thing happened. You guys maybe know I wrote 3 books on the 2020 election called The Steal, and I'm happy to send them to you if you don't have them. Let me know.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. I'd actually like to buy them.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, my background was in audit and finance, and I did audits around the world. And we started looking at this, and at the Gateway Pundit, we were getting like 5 million hits a day. It was just exploding, mainly because nobody else was talking about this stuff. And one thing that I noticed semi early on was we started noticing, I was going to kind of lead up to what you guys want to talk about today. We noticed that there were these what we called them glitches that were showing up on TV, where like on CNN there'd be Trump's ahead, and then all of a sudden 30,000 votes go to Biden, 30,000 are taken from Trump. Then the next day we put about 5 or 6 of these, or I did at Gateway Pundit. These every day we're getting somebody. Hell, look at this one, Joe. Here's another one, and we started saying, and my God, there's these. It looks like numbers are flipping literally on TV. And then what happened was I thought, I'd love to get my hands on the data. There's something going on here. There's got to be some patterns here or something. And we got a hold, me and this one guy, top guy at a big, big firm who reached out and wanted to remain anonymous. And we got a hold of this data set called the Edison data. And we found it at a website called what was it? The Donald.net or something, Donald.win. Donald.win, and they were great. They had a bunch of data there. And so we started looking into that, and we started seeing patterns. We saw patterns in this data that didn't make any sense. And this is what I was going to bring up. What we saw in 2020, I know, Draza, you can really drill into this. What we saw was that the numbers, well, we saw this data set, and first of all, it was pretty amazing that you had to calculate these numbers. It was like it was a calculation to come up with what the numbers were. We figured out how to do that. We figured out all this, and then we started seeing the patterns in the data. And we saw that at about 75% or so, things happened. There was a major drop, I think around 90%. And from that point forward, in every one of these states that we looked at, Georgia, there was a pattern that the data was just consistent from that point forward. Every single batch that came in was getting like a 55-45 Biden over Trump number up until the end of the election after this massive drop. And I wrote about those in my book. I guess from my perspective as an auditor, one of the first things you do is look at the data and see if there's anything there. And things were jumping out all over the place. So that's my limited exposure to this. But then I found out about you, Draza. And I remember, I think we've talked maybe once on the phone previously, maybe once. And I'm really interested in, your analysis, because you, I think, took this to another level, and I'm anxious to hear what you have to say today. So let me turn it over, if you don't mind, Robyn. We'll turn it over to Draza here for a moment.
One other thing I wanted to say is that what you're describing with the Edison data, I took that to our board president of the state, because back in the day, Draza found that in all 50 states, and she felt it looked like a PID controller algorithm. So I took it to my state board. being naive and thinking they cared. And they said, well, that's Edison data. That's not us. And so they basically just poo-pooed it. And that's why what Draza is going to present today is important, because this CVR data is coming from the state. I just want to make that very clear.
Great. Well, thanks. Well, Draza, why don't we'll turn it over to you, and I know we've got some charts too that we can share too, but maybe let's why don't you tell us how you got involved, and then what you started seeing, and that leads us up to today.
So I got involved very similar. I found the Edison data, but I pulled it off of the actual news websites that were using it from the page definitions on the websites. They had all of their timestamp data that they had where they had reported different numbers and these updates. And so I made files from those and started analyzing what was being shown on the news. And very much like you, there are very strange things. At one point in time, the data was zeroed out and restarted again, and then the timestamp shuffled. So it was very, very odd. It was just not what you would expect from an engineering perspective. And then there came the question, well, we can analyze the data and we can see all of these problems in the data, but now you have to consider, where is this data coming from? What is the origin of where they receive these updates that they can report on the news prior to the release of the official data from the Secretary of States from the different states? And that didn't make a lot of sense. But the cast vote records are something that has been very enlightening to look at. These are auditing reports that every election management system, regardless of manufacturer, must be able to produce with their system. It's a NIST standard. And each cast vote record is a line item that takes the ballot that was scanned and it places the votes that were on that ballot in the line, so you can see how each ballot was tallied up over time. So if you take out just the column that is the presidential election, then you can see how each ballot voted that race as we progress through the counting. And so the cast vote record isn't necessarily a time sequence. There's no time stamps. There's no voter information on it. It's just when this ballot was entered into the election management system, the final database, this ballot was entered after the ballot before it, but before the ballot after it. So it becomes a non-synchronous time series of how the election stacked up over the count. So what's very interesting is you can take, and if you look at if we focus on the presidential election, you can say, well, here's one vote for candidate A, one vote for candidate B, 2 votes for candidate A, and you can start summing these individual line items. Now, we don't really care in our elections how many people vote. I mean, we do, but from a final tally standpoint, it doesn't matter if 5,000 people vote or 500,000 people vote. What we care about is the ratio of those votes and who gets 50% as the winner and who doesn't. So when I look at these votes, I don't really look at the number of votes per se, but I watch how that ratio moves. So if you imagine this like a scale, a balance scale, where you have, black and white marbles on each side, that as you put a black marble on this side, the arrow would go in this direction. And then the white marble on the other side causes that arrow to go in this direction. And you can watch as each of the votes are added on here, how that arrow would move. And that would be the path that we see as these votes are tallied. So the slides that I sent to you are the analysis of the full vote from start to finish and how that ratio.
Draza, sorry, let me interrupt. Just from my own understanding here, this is great. I don't want to interrupt you much, but so as a observer, I'm saying, well, is there in essence a timestamp? You're saying these don't reflect timing, but these reflect when they were counted. Is that the difference? What's the difference between this happening? Is it because some states they count for like months or weeks after the election? Why is it that there's not a timestamp associated with each one of these entries?
So the timestamp, from my understanding, and please forgive me if I'm incorrect on this in slight details, timestamps are not necessarily part of this report. This report is a specific report that does an inventory or an audit of each of the ballots as they were added to the system. So the timestamp here, this was designed to be a tool for the public to be able to audit. The time that the ballots were cast, the time that they were added to the election management main database are not as important for that, and could be possibly used to tie it to video evidence, et cetera, to figure out who's voting what ballot. So that data is not included because this really is to look at how the ballots were cast, how the election proceeded, and not be able to use it to identify any individual's vote.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think if we bring up the slides, what Draza is seeing will become apparent quickly. Why this seems, well, strange. And actually, I think with Draza, when she presented all of this to us in the Maryland group with our county team leaders, it was just so similar from county to county to county, which you will see.
Wow. Okay, great. Okay, great. So
yeah. We see so what we see, I guess we can see this on the presentation here now, is that we see a count that begins at the beginning, and you see this first part coming through that kind of makes a flattish space right at the beginning for the first 25 to 30% of the vote. And these are percent of 100% of the vote, so it's not related to any particular number of votes. But that's the early mail, early voting, and that gives you kind of like the general opinion of the people in that county, or the general opinion of the votes that are coming in. And then when it gets a little bit more up and down that middle part, I plotted some of the precinct data on here so you can see. If you look at the one that's in the upper right here for Anne Arundel County, where those precincts are, those colored bars on the bottom, that's each precinct that the ballot that line was from is coming in. You can see that ends. So that's our mail-in vote, early vote that's coming in from the individual precincts, all mixed up together. That ends right about our 30%. And then we have our election day voting, and that hovers around a final position that the people of that county believe. And then right about somewhere between 75 and 80% of the vote in all cases, we have these last mail-in ballots that come in, and they always just move the vote significantly in the direction of one party. Moving this purple line down is moving it as a Democratic favorite. Moving it up would be a Republican favorite as these votes are coming in. So the funny thing is that these last 30%, last 25 to 30% that come in every single county, they produce a smooth mathematical parabolic drop. And it's just unrealistic that it doesn't match the random behavior of any of the people that had voted previously in the county. But yet we see this effect in every single county in the state of Maryland. There are different effects.
Let me ask Draza, just for my own clarity on what I'm looking at here. Maybe probably some people are wondering too, who are watching. So I'm going to just look at the top left chart. Looks the simple one up there, and I see it's purple, and it looks like it's going up at about what 40%. It reaches a peak and then it goes back down and up and down. That is the ratio of like Trump to Harris. Is that what that is in this case?
That is correct. That is correct.
And
So the
so when it
percentage
gets
that I
real
do on the
high,
side,
sorry,
forgive me.
what's the real high? The high amount means is that a consolidated number? Or is this is that so that means that of the votes counted to date, that's the percent that's for Kamala, or is that just the votes that are counted at this time? That's the
For every
percent.
Yeah, this is actually, it looks like a line, but it's a collection of points, and it's a point that's added for every single ballot that's added to the mix. This is my new cumulative ratio. This is the
It's a
new
cumulative.
ratio
Yeah.
that's made as we add that next vote. And so you can see how that goes up and down and kind of stays in a particular range, which is kind of what we would expect for the general opinion of a given county. But in every single county, the last votes that come in, Maryland has a law that allows the mail-in ballots to be counted if they're received up to 10 days after the election, as long as they were postmarked by election day. And
Crazy.
so these votes that are counted late as the mail-in ballots just have a very significant effect on the overall ratio for each and every county.
So in that chart, the top left, what we're seeing is Trump was ahead. This is Trump over Harris, right? So Trump was ahead, he was ahead, he was ahead, all the way to the dotted red line. And then suddenly towards the end, all the ballots were a significant amount were landing for Harris. And then it looks like when it's all over, perhaps Harris won this race in this county. Is that right?
So many of these smaller counties actually do end up with a Trump win at the end. But it doesn't matter whether it's a Republican favorite in the county or a Democrat favorite in the county. The last votes that come in affect the outcome in this same way. And it's almost always 25 to 30% of the votes that come in for each and every county. And it always moves the ratio towards the Democratic side.
Always. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing there.
Yeah, and some of these, so Maryland has 17, if you want to call them rural counties. Okay, so your if you want to call them more Democrat counties would be Montgomery County is the largest, then I think Baltimore City is probably second, then PG County. Those are blue. But then, you have others like Baltimore County and others that tend to be blue. Maybe they seem, if you talk to people, more 50-50. But the 17, so we have 23 counties plus Baltimore City. The 17 counties like in Allegheny are pretty red and pretty rural.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. It looks like that says 240%. What is that? Does that mean the vote?
That means 2.4 Trump votes to every Harris vote.
Yeah,
but if
so
you
Trump
look at
won
the
that
peak,
county pretty significantly.
If you look at the peak where that parabolic decline starts, where those last mail-in votes come in, we're at 3.2. So up until 80%, so for 80% of the people that voted, the cumulative opinion of 80% of the people that voted in this county was 3.2 Trump votes to every one Harris vote. Yet when the last 20% of the mail-in votes are applied, it looks like the overall opinion of the entire county is only 2.4 Trump votes to every Harris vote.
Yeah, and so I think the thing when Draza talked to our group last week, because I know we only have limited time, but I asked her, well, if you saw this in your day job, engineering job, what would you think? And she compared it to like a kiln. Did you want to do the kiln analogy, Draza?
Right. If I were looking at a plot like this in my day job, I would not expect this to be human behavior. I would look at this a process where we have like a preheat phase, we have an operational phase, and then we have a cool down phase. That would be absolute structured phases of operation of a system and not something that we would expect out of random human behavior over time.
And every one of these are different counties in Baltimore then, or in
if you could
Maryland.
go to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one is additional, and I plotted more of the precincts. You can see that here, but I want you to look at the last two on the right. One is Cecil County and one is Carroll County. Now, these are two different counties, and you can see that they're like the plot of the same system. You see the initial mail-in ballots coming in, and then you have a very angular curve where the opinion during election day goes up, and we get to that 80%, and the last mail-in votes cause this to go down. Now, what I'd like to point out with this, even though these two look so very, very similar, one of them had 50,000 votes and one had 100,000 votes. So that means that this last 80% are completely different numbers. And yet the 80% is the same in each case, that the mail-in ballots come in at a mathematically calculated 20% of the total vote, whether we're voting 50,000 people or 100,000 people.
Yeah, and one thing, just so people like understand, okay, well, what do you want? I always get that question from our board members. We'd like an investigation into this. I'd like to understand when Draza is seeing this parabolic decline, which she says looks like a system, a process. Okay, well, what's causing this? I mean, our board tells us everything's kosher and great, and we do our logic and accuracy, and everything checks out, and they're very proud of themselves, and they won a EAC award. But most of us in our group, we have 3,400 members, they don't trust the process. So I would like to see an independent investigation into this.
Sure. For sure. These counties, it looks like they all went Trump. What was it? So Baltimore City, was that the big influencer in Maryland then?
Montgomery County is actually the largest. So Montgomery County, PG County, and I think Baltimore City, definitely those always tend to go for the Democrat. Draza, I don't know, because again, who wins or loses in this particular analysis is not as important as what's happening, like she said, with the ratios.
Correct. The fact that if you could go a couple, next slide, I think is just more counties that show you the same. And then if you go to the next slide, more of the same, but go to the next slide, please. This is a single county. This is Queen Anne's County, Maryland, and the upper right is the voting that took place during the 2020 presidential election. The one in the middle to the left is the vote that took place in the 2022 governor election, and the one on the bottom right is the vote that took place for the 2024 presidential election. So the number of votes are different. We had 30,290 votes in 2020, 22,899 votes in 2022, and 32,347 in 2024. And yet every single time, the last 20% come in and push the total ratio down towards the Democratic candidate.
So what do you think's happening, Draza?
I think that we have a RICO enterprise. We have money that we've seen come through the FEC reports that fraudulent money has been coming into various committees. Those committees then can use that to buy ballots, like James O'Keefe has shown in his stories. They can find ballots and copy them, like the case in Connecticut people were just convicted by sending in fake ballots, and then they have the money from that foreign money and illegal money that has been put in because the fraud detection has intentionally been set so low. Thus, why Representative Comer just referred Act Blue for criminal prosecution based on the 450-page plus document. It's all structured, it's all paid for, and it shows up in these end mail-in ballots because you don't have to have a person associated with it when that ballot comes in.
Right. And so you have mail-in ballots in Maryland?
Oh, yeah. It started out,
too?
with COVID, they've been trying, because I was involved in some of this in 2014. The Democrats have been trying to get mail-in ballots that entire time from 2014 up to 2020, but it took COVID to actually get the mass mail-in ballots, and now it's stayed. And frankly, I think it's destroying our country. It's
absolutely,
to me,
I agree 100%.
because there's no chain of custody. And like Draza said, if people get their hands on a ballot, they can be submitted. And as she said, she thinks some of this actually directs the mules about where to go. So with all of that being said, it's not reflective of the people's will. So like I said, I think we need an investigation, and we got to get down to the bottom of this, because as she showed you, 2020, 2022, now 2024.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
So one of the things I'd like to point out as well, if you see this in every county, the effect of having the ability to send in these votes by mail at the end in every single county means that they have access to every single ballot style. If you have access to every single ballot style, then you have manipulative control of each individual race, regardless of the level. Your local elections, your county elections, your state elections, your federal elections.
Yeah, we all know the solution is hand count paper ballots at the precinct level. But that would be, let's just say this. Our Democrat-controlled legislature, we couldn't even get voter ID out of committee, and we've tried 2020, every single session. We can't.
Well, that's communism. It's fascism. It's terrible. This isn't America. We did a study recently in California, Orange County, sixth largest county in the U.S. 1.8 million people on their voter rolls, and they sent out 2.1 million ballots, and they ended up counting 1.4 million. And we looked at those. We actually have data, the people who voted, and we determined, this is with Harry Hari and Marley Hornick with United Sovereign Americans, and we determined that 1/5 of the people who voted are either non-citizens, invalid, or just phantom voters. We don't even know who or what they are. So and they've got the mail-in ballots, they've got the drop boxes, they got ballot harvesting. It's a total sham. And I would argue that they do not have elections. Those aren't elections. This is a communist takeover. And this is what they do. If you study history, that's what Lenin did. That's what they do. And then and what's his name, Chavez in Venezuela. And that's where we're at right now. I think half our country. I think Maryland. Quite frankly, it's real sad. It's real sad. But you don't have an election there. These numbers are. They don't make sense because there's patterns there. These patterns, there shouldn't be patterns in some data. It just, you know what I mean? Sometimes there should be patterns and they're not there, and other times there shouldn't be patterns and they are there. It doesn't make sense. That's the thing. What do you think?
Yeah, and really, and all the people are asking for is, let's investigate this. I actually looked into who was the state attorney general, and guess what? I found out from someone who was in the running for that Chuck Schumer is holding up all of the state's attorney generals. So our state attorney general right now is a holdover from Biden, and I think in probably most states. Yeah. So I don't know if people realize that, but that's very important, because where would we get this investigation?
Yeah. No, well, it's a takeover. What do you think, Draza? What are you thinking?
Oh, please repeat the question for me.
Yeah, what's going through your head right now as we're talking about all this? What needs to be done? And how can we do it?
So this is the impact of multiple cheats of the entire RICO enterprise that we're dealing with. We have uncontrolled ballot mailing. We have we've been shown the millions of people that have been given illegal immigrants that have been given Social Security numbers, those Social Security numbers that can be propagated onto our voter rolls. Those people don't have to vote. They might not even know that they are on the voter rolls, but those ballots can be ordered and filled out and sent in their name, which is identity theft in addition to other abuses hoisted upon these people. We've got the proof that people go to locations as shown by the geofencing, the telephone geofencing that True the Vote did, that showed that these people are making routes, dropping in these ballots daily to provide a sense of legitimacy, because they're not being dumped in at one location in one, on one day. It's all a structure, along with possible manipulation within the systems, because we've seen reports coming out of Michigan and other places now that the voter rolls are being modified to change the data on the voting history of voters after the elections. So if you're changing the information that the voters said that they had voted, and now the updated voter roll said that they didn't, where is that vote? Did it get removed digitally from your count? Did your vote now not matter?
No, it's all a sham. It's a joke. It's disgusting. I'm so glad when I was going through these various areas and analysis when I was writing at the Gateway Pundit, and I just threw it into 3 books. That middle book of mine, it's where I said at the end of each chapter, I got about halfway through the book, and I'm just like, this stuff's not certifiable, And every single chapter, as a corporate, auditor and executive, done audits around the world. I've done audits. Here's the thing. I've brought this up at a presentation one time. I did audits in communist China, and I asked them for documentation, whatever it was that I was looking at, and they gave me everything. It was clear, it was concise, it was accurate, it tied to what we had. It was all legitimate. We can't even get that from our election officials. For them to provide stuff, they just won't give it to you.
They won't.
And our elections, I'm sitting here thinking, God, communist China was better than our election process here in the U.S. But every area was not certifiable, whether it was the machines and their security, which we know is non-existent, or whether it's the mail-in ballots or the voter rolls or whatever it is. It's totally broke. There's no controls over this, and there isn't a single auditor of integrity that would ever have certified this election in any election now going forward.
Yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, it could be the ultimate psyop.
Oh,
you know how they love to run psyops on us all the time, right? This could be the ultimate, the election.
Certainly.
I mean, I just look, we've been looking at this. I came into it totally open-minded. Like I said, I'm a PR person who owns a business, so I didn't have any preconceived notions. And just the more we dig and the more we see, the worse it gets. And that's, you did the same thing. That's looking at it since 2020. It's actually the same in 2022, and it's now the same in 2024.
Yeah.
So we have, if we don't fix this while Trump's in office, I mean, I know you guys realize this, we're done. We're done.
We're done. We've got a year. Yeah. Draza, what do you think? Final thoughts here.
The thing that I really want people to think about and understand when they start talking about the elections, when I do something brilliant in my engineering world, and I document it, I want people to check it. I want to be proud of the things that I did, and I want people to try to find that I made a mistake, to be impressed that I did such a good job. The fact that every time people request to audit and check over things, they are met with apprehension and lawfare, even that you're not allowed to see this is almost an absolute admission that there's something wrong.
Great point. Great point. I never did an audit where somebody was very, that pushed back that there wasn't something going on. It's a total red flag for an auditor. If somebody's pushing back hard, you better dig right there. They're telling you where to go. And around the world, people are more than happy to have you look at what they're doing. And if they got some errors, the mature people are like, great, tell me so that we can fix it and correct it going forward.
Exactly.
That's how mature people act. Criminals
and that's also how businesses act. The three of us all come from a business background. I own a business. Draza was working for a business. You were an auditor in many businesses. And like you said, when someone won't show you something or things are opaque and you have a question, well, yeah, you're going to start questioning. So like you said, it's just common sense. Yeah. So I really hope, because I feel like things just get thrown against the wall to keep us distracted. I really want people to understand that election integrity has to be job number one. If we could let ourselves go, in all these paths, we're never going to get this fixed.
That's it.
And I'm sure that's what the bad guys are counting on that.
That's right. And if we can't replace these monsters, then it can't, then we're not going to save this country. We've got to get people out of there legitimately, legally through an election process that's certifiable. And right now, we don't have that. So we got a lot of work to do. But I really think what you guys are doing, bringing this up, sharing it, getting the word out is really, really important, because our media after 2020, remember, they're everything's fine, most secure election ever. And 62%, according to Rasmussen, a year later, were like, no, that election was rigged. 65% said January 6th was a setup. So we're getting the message out here. People are coming here. They know the media is liars, and they're coming to where they can get the truth. And so I appreciate you guys being here. How can people follow you or help you in any way?
For Maryland Voter Integrity Group, mdvoter.org, you can get to our podcast, you can get to our private groups, you can get to everything. And we actually have weekly meetings. So for people that want to get involved, and we actually have people from all over the country. So mdvoter.org, and then Draza.
I have an X account now that I was able to make another one after I got kicked off for talking about elections after 2020. But so my old one doesn't work, but my new one, Draza Smith on X, is the best place to get in touch with me.
Great. Thanks, guys. You're doing great work. Really appreciate you
with
coming
my baby girl
there. Thank you so much. Awesome. We'll catch up again. God bless. Let's keep fighting this fight. It's worth it.
Bye, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be back tomorrow on the Joe Hoft Show. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you then.